Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Austin the Stache here to chit-chat with members of York Public Schools and everything that goes on there. I've got Katie Burger and Chelsey Klein with me today. Good morning. How are you?
Great. Good morning. Thanks for having us in.
Yeah, so excited to talk about what's going on. So, Katie, give me a little rundown of who you are, what's going on, and what you're here to talk about.
Sure. My name is Katie Burger, and I'm the elementary principal over at York Elementary School, but I also get to oversee our early childhood programming that we have. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the vast services we have underneath that early childhood umbrella.
Fantastic. And that's where Chelsey comes in, right?
That is where Chelsey comes in.
Yep.
And Chelsey, explain who you are and what's going on.
Yep. Awesome. My name is Chelsey Klein, and I'm the early childhood coordinator for our early childhood programs. So I kind of am involved in the day-to-day operations of helping those function.
Very nice. Now, I'm a new dad, new-ish. I've got soon to be a 2-year-old, so I'm in the process of looking at early childhood schooling and all that sort of stuff. You know, and plus my wife is a second grade teacher, so all of that comes into this interview where I have questions on what to look for.
Yes.
Is early childhood education that important and all that sort of stuff? So let's start off with the basics of when it comes to how school has changed since a lot of us were in school. It seems like kindergarten, first grade is a lot different than it was back in the day. Katie, can you talk about that a little bit?
I am so glad you said that. It is different, right? I remember even when I was in kindergarten, we had the letter people. I don't know if you remember the letter
Yes.
people, right? And they had those blow up, and that's what kindergarten was, right? We have seen a grade inflation is what we call it. That has really happened over the last 30 or so years, where things that we were teaching in first and second grade are now being taught in kindergarten, right? And so those expectations have just really risen. And so kindergarten is different. And that's why early childhood matters so much. Another reason it matters is because your 2-year-old right now, 90% of his brain will be developed by the time he enters kindergarten.
Jeez.
So by the time a child is 5, 90% of that brain development happens. And that's why early childhood education and early intervention is so important.
So when it comes to early childhood education and that shifting of, things being taught sooner and sooner, Chelsey, kind of talk about what you do with early childhood development when a kid comes into preschool at the age of 3 or 4.
Yep.
What does that education look like?
Yep. So in our preschool programs, we use a high quality curriculum. So it's something that we take some standards from the state that we know are good for children to learn at age 3, 4, and before they enter kindergarten. We have certified teachers that are guiding that curriculum, and we are working on executive function skills, so making sure they can interact with their peers, they can self-regulate those emotions that we all have that are really big. We're wanting them to be able to control them by the time they get to kindergarten, and those expectations are a lot harder. We're working on conflict resolution with their peers, but then we're also working on that early literacy and those math concepts that will be that foundation for when they get to kindergarten so they're ready to go.
I don't want this to come across negatively by any means, but is there a bit of a problem with like having kids learn so early? Like the idea of like a kid should be a kid, right?
Yes.
That's what a lot of people talk about. And like, is there a problem with trying to educate them too early?
I love that question, Austin. Developmentally appropriate is what we talk about all the time. And we talk about that in kindergarten and in first grade and second grade too. But we make sure that when we are in our early intervention services or in our preschool program, that we are developmentally appropriate. So we are doing a lot through play. Students will be counting blocks and not even realizing that they're learning how to count, right? And so we have the ability within our curriculum to make sure that we are not just sitting down doing worksheets. Actually, we do not do many worksheets in preschool at all. It is very much at their level and what they are developmentally ready for.
Very nice. Okay, so that takes a lot of pressure off, because it seems like early childhood education is so important. Like you said, that 90% of the brain is and whatnot. To then try a lot of parents worry about their kids growing up too fast. And so to hear that is a real weight off of people's shoulders.
Absolutely.
Sure. And so we talked a little bit about how education is inflation, is great inflation,
Yes.
right? So when you see kids coming in and you see them going on to kindergarten, what kind of big steps are they doing? What kind of big growth in their education are you seeing from kids from when they first start to when they leave?
Right. When we have the ability to have kids, especially 2 years in our program, when we can have them that, when they turn 3 and then in that year 4, we are able to see huge growth in their ability to, even their play schemes, like how can they interact with their peers and learn how to share toys and materials? How can they handle transitions? Just being able to control like their own bodies in space. And then we're also seeing, they'll go on to kindergarten and some of them are already writing their name and they're able to hold a pencil the correct way so that they're set up ready to go to that next learning environment, but we've taught them those skills in the natural learning environment that they need, which is through play.
And Katie, from an elementary perspective, can you kind of tell the kids that went to preschool versus those that just kind of were in daycare up until kindergarten? Can you tell the difference?
We can normally, and a lot of it comes down to rich experiences. So when we have students that are in that really rich environment, whether that is a preschool program at York Public Schools or maybe a parochial program in town or different places that a family has chosen to do, right? Maybe you've chosen to homeschool for a preschool. It's all about having that rich exposure to language, to environments, to peers, all of those things. And we do notice that when they come into kindergarten.
And is that, for you guys, is that a difficult barrier or is it just a noticeable one?
It's a noticeable one, but it can be difficult, right? It depends on each student. What I would say is that early intervention is going to reduce the likelihood for a need for intervention. So that might be special education services, that might be title reading support, right? We have lots of different interventions that we can provide for students, but the earlier we are working with the student that needs that intervention, the more likely we are to not need it in kindergarten. And so that would even come from our other early childhood programs that we have that start all the way at prenatal that are probably less commonly known than our preschool program here in York.
Talk a little bit more about what is available and who, for lack of a better word, who qualifies for it, like how much is available to the people of York.
I think some of our programs, there might be people in York that are benefiting from them and they don't even know of them. So we have our 6-pence home visiting program and we have our 6-pence child care partnership program. And so I'll let Chelsey talk a little bit about those, but those are 2 programs that are completely grant funded, but they support students and children before they turn 3.
Yep. So as Katie said, we have our 6-pence home visitation program, and that we have home visitors that have at least a bachelor's degree. So they are educated in early childhood development, and they are going in working with families in their natural environment, in their home. And we're able to work with them prenatally up through the age of 3 so we can help that transition to preschool. And we're helping them just with the parents so that they know they're their best teacher. And we just want to support them in knowing how to create those really developmentally rich experiences so those children are ready and caught up with their peers. Those families that qualify for that program, we do have 5 risk factors and they just have to meet one of them. And those vary from maybe they are a teen parent, maybe English is not their first language, maybe they don't have a high school diploma, or they were born prematurely. Those are all qualifying risk factors. Or if they are low income, and that just follows like free and reduced guidelines. And then our child care partnership program is another one. And that one is unique in the fact that we have a coach that goes into child care facilities and works with those providers so that we're making sure that those quality environments are established, those interactions, that the providers are having with those children are high quality, and just really supporting the childcare providers on what they need to be successful.
Very nice. Very nice. And talk a little bit more about why preschool? Like why choosing preschool is so important. We've talked a lot about, the inflation. We've talked about all these things, but like to you, what is the importance of preschool?
I would say preschool and early childhood education. So whether that's a birth to or a prenatal to 3 program or a preschool program, whatever that is, studies have shown us for every $1 we invest in quality early childhood education, we're going to get a $4 to $16 return. And to me, that is a huge return and a really important one. That return could come in that we have parents that are able to work, right? Maybe they have quality childcare and they're now able to work, or a quality preschool program, they're now able to go and work and help stimulate the economy in that way. It may come in that students are more likely to graduate from high school, less likely to need special education services. Early intervention has even been linked to lowering crime and incarceration rates. So what we can do before a child turns 5, I think is better for our whole community, not just the York Elementary School building itself, right? And the staff and resources we have there. So that's why YPS has spent so much time building a really great early childhood program, because we know that it's best for the community when we're able to support all of our earliest learners. And when you say why preschool and why preschool is important, I just want to talk about my own kids, right? I have 4 of them, all 4 York Elementary School students. They probably would have been okay without preschool, but I promise you that preschool helped reduce some behaviors, because I'm sure we would have had a few of those. And I think one of the biggest things is that, and maybe you see this with your own child, they're different with mom and dad, right? Their emotions are different with mom and dad, and they're bigger, and sometimes it's a lot to handle. And having them go into a very safe, calm, developmentally appropriate place like preschool helps prepare them and helps with those emotions sometimes as before we enter kindergarten.
Yeah, that's definitely something that the 2-year-old is proving for us for sure. So very nice, very nice. Is there anything else before we dip out of here? Is there anything else that we should hit on talking about early childhood development?
I would just echo that if you have concerns about your child before their preschool age, just to reach out. We have referral programs, we have early interventions, and we can help point you in the right direction if it's not us that can help, to make sure that your child can get what they need.
There are a lot more resources available than what a lot of people think, especially coming fresh out of the hospital, and it's like, all right, here's your child. Make sure it grows up and doesn't become a criminal. Like,
absolutely,
that's hard. And
it's
so
a big weight.
Yeah.
It is. It's huge. And so, absolutely, reach out whenever you are. If parents are struggling with parenting, reach out, because there are plenty of resources available. And where should people reach out to? Phone number, website? What's the best place to get a hold of
an
people?
easy way is just to call York Elementary School or York Public Schools, and our secretarial staff will know who they need to connect you with. When you say, hey, I'm interested in this, they'll be able to connect you with either myself or Chelsey.
There you go. Fantastic. Katie Burger, Chelsey Klein, thank you so much for stopping by today and letting us know what's going on.
We appreciate it.
Thank you
so
so
much,
much.
Austin.
Absolutely.